If you've always felt different, misunderstood, like you don't fully belong in this world, this message is for you. Maybe you've carried that feeling quietly for years, the sense that you see things other people don't, that you feel things more deeply, that while everyone else seems comfortable blending in, you have always stood slightly apart, observing, questioning, sensing something beneath the surface of ordinary life. You tried to explain it once or twice, but the words never quite captured it. Eventually, you stopped explaining and simply carried it within you. Some people don't just exist, they carry a light. It's not the kind of light you can measure or photograph. It's not about status, attention, or performance. It's an inner radiance, a depth, a quiet strength that refuses to disappear even after disappointment, rejection, or betrayal. It's the reason you've survived things that should have hardened you, yet somehow you remain soft. It's the reason you've been through darkness but never fully became it. Not everyone can see that light. In fact, most people won't. Some will misunderstand your silence as weakness. Others will misread your discernment as judgment. There will be those who feel unsettled around you without knowing why. They may project, criticize, or distance themselves. And for a long time, you might have wondered if something was wrong with you. You may have questioned your sensitivity, your intensity, your refusal to conform. You may have tried to dim yourself just to feel accepted. But darkness always recognizes it first. Long before you understand your own light, opposition does. Negativity notices. Envy senses it. Manipulation attempts to test it. It's almost as if the very challenges in your life were drawn to that unseen glow within you. Not to destroy you, but to pressure you. To see if you would abandon who you are. To see if you would forget what you carry. And yet, despite everything, you are still here. Still searching. Still listening. Still hoping. That alone says more than you realize. Today, we're going to talk about the inner light that only a true chosen one carries. Not in a dramatic or exaggerated way, but in a deeply personal and spiritual sense. This is about the kind of person who was shaped by adversity rather than defined by it. The kind of soul who has walked through isolation but emerged with wisdom. The kind of heart that has been tested repeatedly and still chooses integrity. If you've ever felt like your life has followed an unusually intense path, as though you were being prepared for something you couldn't yet see, this message is meant to bring clarity to that feeling. And by the end of this message, you'll understand why your light was never meant to be extinguished. You'll begin to see that the very things that made you feel out of place were not accidents. The depth you carry is not random. The awareness you've developed did not come without purpose. There is meaning in the resistance you faced. There is intention behind the resilience you built, and there is power in the light that remains inside you, no matter how many times life tried to convince you otherwise. If this message resonates with you, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more messages meant for the chosen ones. The inner light of a chosen one is not born in comfort. It does not emerge from a life untouched by difficulty, nor does it grow in the safety of constant approval. It is not formed in applause, validation, or ease. It is forged in places most people try to avoid. It is shaped in moments when you felt unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. While others were building identities around acceptance, you were building depth in silence. It is forged through hardship, not the kind that simply inconveniences you, but the kind that reshapes you. The kind that forces you to ask questions most people never dare to confront. Why am I here? Why does this keep happening? Why do I feel like I'm walking a different path from everyone else? Hardship stripped away illusions. It removed the superficial layers. It exposed what was fragile and demanded that you find what was unbreakable. Every challenge pressed against you, and instead of collapsing, something within you strengthened. Through rejection, your light took form. Rejection has a way of cutting deeply, especially when you offer your sincerity and it is not received. Perhaps you were rejected for being too sensitive, too intense, too different. Maybe your ideas were dismissed. Maybe your presence unsettled people who couldn't understand you. Rejection can make a person shrink. It can make them question their worth. But in you, it did something else. It forced you to stop seeking identity in the approval of others. It pushed you inward. And in that inward journey, you began discovering a quiet confidence that did not depend on being chosen by the crowd. Through betrayal, your discernment sharpened. Betrayal is one of the deepest pains a person can experience because it breaks trust, and trust is sacred. When someone you believed in turns against you, it shakes your foundation. It can make you guarded. It can tempt you to close your heart completely. Yet somehow, even after betrayal, you did not lose your capacity to care. You became wiser, yes. More observant, certainly. But you did not become cruel. You did not decide that everyone was the same. Instead, you learned to see more clearly. You learned that not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. And that realization did not harden your heart. It refined it. Through loneliness, your inner world expanded. Loneliness is not simply being alone. It is feeling alone, even when surrounded by others. It is the experience of knowing that the conversations around you do not touch the questions inside you. It is sitting with thoughts that feel too deep to share. For many, loneliness becomes a void they try to escape. For you, it became a classroom. In solitude, you developed awareness. You learned to listen to your intuition. You became comfortable with silence. While others feared being alone with their thoughts, you faced yours. And in doing so, you built a connection with your inner self that no external relationship could replace. There were moments when the weight felt unbearable, moments when you wondered why your path seemed heavier than others, moments when you questioned whether it would be easier to simply conform, to silence your depth, to dim your intensity. Yet every time life pushed you to the edge, something within refused to disappear. That refusal is the light. It is subtle, but it is powerful. It is the quiet voice that says, "Keep going." It is the steady pulse of resilience that continues even when your strength feels depleted. But instead of becoming bitter, you became deeper. That is what separates a chosen one from someone who is merely wounded. Bitterness closes the heart. Depth expands it. Bitterness blames the world. Depth seeks understanding. You could have allowed your pain to define you as cynical, guarded, or resentful. You had every reason to. Yet something within you chose growth over resentment. You began to see that every painful experience was revealing something about your strength, your boundaries, your values, and your purpose. The darkness didn't destroy you. It revealed who you truly are. Darkness has a way of stripping away illusions. It shows you what you cling to. It shows you where you compromise. It shows you what truly matters. When everything comfortable is removed, your core is exposed. And when your core was exposed, it was not emptiness that you found. It was endurance. It was compassion. It was insight. The trials you faced were not random storms. They were mirrors. They reflected back to you the power you didn't know you possessed. There is a reason your journey required intensity. Light that is meant to shine brightly must be tested, not to weaken it, but to strengthen it. Metal is purified through fire. Diamonds are formed under pressure. In the same way, your spirit was shaped through circumstances that demanded transformation. Each hardship carved away what was false and revealed what was real. Each tear watered something invisible that would later become wisdom. Pain was not punishment, it was preparation. It may not have felt that way at the time. In the middle of the struggle, preparation looks like loss. It feels like isolation. It sounds like silence when you are asking for answers. But preparation often happens in hidden seasons. It builds endurance before visibility. It builds character before influence. It builds stability before expansion. What you endured was not designed to break you permanently. It was designed to build you quietly. Think about the version of yourself before those hardships. Think about how you saw the world, how you saw people, how you saw yourself. Now consider who you are after everything you've survived. You are more discerning, more empathetic, more aware of energy, intention, and authenticity. You read between the lines. You sense what others overlook. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is awareness refined through experience. Your light carries authority because it has been tested. It carries compassion because it understands suffering. It carries wisdom because it has asked hard questions. The pain you endured gave you access to dimensions of understanding that comfort never could. It taught you to recognize superficiality. It trained you to value truth. It strengthened your intuition because you learned to rely on it when external guidance failed you. A chosen one is not someone who avoided darkness. It is someone who walked through it and emerged conscious. The experiences that tried to silence you ended up sharpening your voice. The situations that attempted to shrink you ended up clarifying your boundaries. The loneliness that once felt empty became sacred space where your identity was rebuilt from the inside out. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by what you became because of it. That distinction matters. Anyone can experience pain. Not everyone transforms it into depth. Not everyone turns wounds into wisdom. Not everyone allows hardship to awaken compassion instead of cruelty. The fact that you did speaks to something extraordinary within you. The world often misunderstands this process. It celebrates visible success, but overlooks invisible growth. It applauds confidence without asking what forged it, but you know the truth of your journey. You know the nights no one saw. You know the internal battles you fought silently. You know how many times you rebuilt yourself in private. That unseen resilience is the foundation of your light. And this is only the beginning. The light that was born in pain does not exist merely to survive. It exists to guide. It exists to illuminate paths for others who are still walking through their darkness. Because you understand suffering, you recognize it in others. Because you endured isolation, you sense when someone else feels unseen. Because you faced betrayal, you value loyalty deeply. Your experiences equipped you to carry empathy with strength. Nothing you went through was wasted. Every hardship added a layer to your depth. Every rejection refined your identity. Every lonely season strengthened your inner connection. What once felt like a burden is now the source of your discernment. What once felt like abandonment is now the birthplace of independence. What once felt like breaking was actually shaping. The light within you did not appear despite the pain. It appeared because of it. And that is why it cannot be easily extinguished. It was not casually formed. It was forged. It was tested. It was strengthened in silence. It grew roots in the very places you thought would destroy you. That is why it remains steady now. The darkness didn't defeat you. It introduced you to your own depth. And as we continue, you will begin to see that this light, born in hardship, is not accidental. It is intentional. It is powerful. And it is only beginning to reveal what it was preparing you for all along. When you carry an inner light, it does not exist in isolation. It interacts with the world around you. It moves through rooms before you speak. It shifts atmospheres without effort. It reaches people on levels that words cannot always explain, and because of that, your presence does not go unnoticed. It creates reactions. It draws responses. It awakens something in others, whether they are ready for it or not. Your light attracts people who need healing. There are individuals who feel safe around you without understanding why. They open up quickly. They share stories they do not normally tell. They feel seen in your presence. Your empathy gives them permission to be honest. Your discernment allows you to understand pain that has never been spoken aloud. You do not chase this role, it simply happens. Strangers confide in you, friends lean on you. Even those who once kept their guard high eventually soften. This is not accidental. When someone carries depth born from hardship, it creates a frequency others can feel. People who are silently struggling recognize that you understand suffering without judgment. They sense that you have walked through your own darkness and survived. That recognition builds trust. Your light becomes a refuge. It becomes a space where others feel less alone. But that same light also triggers those who are uncomfortable with truth. Not everyone responds to authenticity with gratitude. Some respond with defensiveness. When you carry clarity, it can reflect back what others are trying to avoid within themselves. Your honesty, even when gentle, can expose insecurity. Your boundaries can reveal manipulation. Your calmness can highlight chaos. And for someone unwilling to confront their own shadows, that reflection feels threatening. Your light exposes what others try to hide. This exposure does not require confrontation. It does not require accusation. It simply happens because truth naturally reveals what illusion tries to conceal. When you walk into a space grounded in integrity, deception feels uneasy. When you speak from self-awareness, denial becomes uncomfortable. When you remain authentic, pretense struggles to survive. Some people admire this, others resist it. That resistance often shows up as jealousy. Jealousy does not always look obvious. Sometimes it appears as subtle competition. Sometimes it sounds like backhanded compliments. Sometimes it feels like energy shifting when you succeed. Jealousy arises when someone sees something in you that they either desire or feel threatened by. It may not even be about what you have externally. It may be about your confidence, your composure, your resilience. They see your steadiness and wonder why they do not possess the same. Criticism follows closely behind, not constructive feedback but targeted negativity. You may have noticed that people sometimes judge you for qualities that are actually strengths. They call you intense when you are focused. They label you distant when you are discerning. They say you are too much when you simply refuse to shrink. Criticism becomes a tool to try to regulate your light. If they can convince you that your depth is a flaw, perhaps you will dim it. There are also moments that feel like spiritual attacks. Not necessarily dramatic events, but patterns of unusual opposition. Situations escalate quickly around you. Conflicts arise unexpectedly. You feel drained after certain interactions. It can seem as though whenever you begin stepping into growth, something attempts to destabilize you. For someone unaware of their light, this feels confusing. For a chosen one, it is often a sign of impact. Misunderstanding becomes a recurring theme. You explain yourself, yet people hear something else. Your intentions are pure, yet they are questioned. Your silence is misread. Your boundaries are taken personally. Over time, misunderstanding can feel isolating. It can make you wonder if being fully yourself is worth the friction. But misunderstanding does not erase your truth. It simply highlights that not everyone is aligned with your frequency. If your life has felt unusually intense, this pattern may not be coincidence. You may have experienced relationships that shifted suddenly, opportunities that required resilience beyond what seemed normal, emotional dynamics that felt deeper than surface-level interactions. Intensity is often the byproduct of impact. When your presence carries influence, reactions amplify. Consider how light behaves in a dark room. Even a small flame changes the entire atmosphere. It reveals corners that were hidden. It defines shapes that were previously unseen. Now imagine being that light in spaces where people have grown comfortable in dimness. Some will move closer to see clearly. Others will shield their eyes. The light itself is not aggressive, it simply exists. The response belongs to the observer. This is why you may have felt both deeply appreciated and strongly resisted throughout your life. The same qualities that draw gratitude from one person may trigger insecurity in another. Your authenticity is magnetic to those seeking truth. It is disruptive to those invested in illusion. And this duality can be exhausting if you do not understand it. A chosen one must learn that resistance does not equal failure. Opposition does not mean you are doing something wrong. In many cases, it means you are doing something real. When your presence shifts energy, when your growth challenges stagnation, when your integrity highlights compromise, friction is inevitable. Not because you are flawed, but because change is uncomfortable. There is also a lesson here about boundaries. Just because your light attracts those who need healing does not mean you are responsible for saving everyone. Compassion must be balanced with discernment. You can offer presence without absorbing chaos. You can provide support without sacrificing yourself. Part of carrying impact is learning where your responsibility ends. Intensity often teaches you to strengthen your foundation. When jealousy arises, you refine humility without shrinking. When criticism appears, you develop thicker skin without losing softness. When misunderstanding repeats, you anchor yourself in clarity. Each form of resistance builds emotional maturity. It teaches you to remain steady, even when external reactions fluctuate. At the same time, do not overlook the healing you inspire. Think of the conversations that ended with someone feeling lighter, the advice that shifted someone's perspective, the calm you brought into tense situations, the quiet example you set simply by living authentically. These moments matter. They are evidence that your presence carries weight. Your life may feel like a series of extremes because you are not meant to live superficially. You operate in depth. You experience in depth. You influence in depth. This can make ordinary interactions feel amplified. It can make ordinary conflicts feel layered. But depth is not a curse. It is capacity. If your life has felt unusually intense, it may be because your presence carries impact. Impact creates movement. Movement creates reaction. Reaction creates growth. The intensity you have navigated is not random chaos. It is a sign that your energy does not blend into the background. It shifts things. It activates things. It reveals things. And that revelation is both gift and challenge. The gift is the healing you bring. The challenge is the resistance you face. Both are part of the same reality. Both confirm that your light is active. Neither should surprise you once you understand who you are becoming. As you continue forward, recognize this pattern without fear. Expect both gratitude and opposition. Expect connection and misunderstanding. Expect admiration and projection. None of it defines your worth. It simply reflects the impact of authenticity in a world still learning how to handle truth. Your light does not need to fight for space. It does not need to defend itself constantly. It only needs to remain steady. Those who are meant to heal in your presence will find you. Those who are triggered will reveal themselves. And through both experiences, your awareness will deepen. The key is this: do not confuse resistance with rejection of your purpose. Resistance often confirms it. When your life feels intense, when patterns seem amplified, when reactions seem disproportionate, remember that light magnifies whatever it touches. And if your presence magnifies truth, then both healing and resistance are natural outcomes. This is not a sign to retreat. It is a sign to strengthen your understanding. Your impact is real. Your depth is real. The responses you encounter are not accidents. They are evidence that your inner light is active and influential. And as we move forward, you will begin to see how learning to navigate both healing and resistance is essential to stepping fully into who you were shaped to become. After everything you have endured, there were moments when you questioned yourself. Moments when the weight felt heavier than your strength. Moments when silence felt louder than encouragement. You may have doubted your path. You may have wondered if you misread the signs. You may have questioned whether the depth you carry is a gift or a burden. Self-doubt has visited you more than once, especially after disappointment or fatigue. You may have felt exhausted in ways that are difficult to explain. Not just physically tired, but spiritually drained. The kind of exhaustion that comes from constantly processing, constantly discerning, constantly feeling. When you carry awareness, you do not move through life lightly. You absorb environments. You sense shifts in energy. You notice subtleties others ignore. Over time, that awareness can feel overwhelming. There were days when you wanted to retreat completely. Days when you wished you could be indifferent. Days when you envied those who seemed unaffected by what deeply moved you. You may have wanted to give up, not necessarily on life, but on trying so hard to remain authentic, on choosing the high road, on holding on to compassion when it felt easier to detach. Giving up sometimes looks like emotional numbness. It looks like deciding not to care anymore. It looks like telling yourself that integrity is overrated and that blending in would be simpler. The temptation to shut down is real when you have been tested repeatedly, but the light is still there. The fact that you are listening to this message proves it. The fact that you continue searching for meaning proves it. The fact that you still reflect instead of react proves it. Something within you has refused to disappear. Even when you felt at your lowest, there remained a small but steady awareness that you are not meant to become hardened. That awareness is the light. If the light were gone, you would not feel the tension between who you are and who the world sometimes pressures you to be. You would not question whether your reactions align with your values. You would not feel discomfort when you act out of alignment. The very presence of inner conflict is evidence of conscience, and conscience is a form of light. There are signs your inner light remains, even if you have overlooked them. You still care deeply. Despite betrayal, you have not become indifferent. You still feel compassion when someone struggles. You still feel empathy when someone suffers. Caring deeply in a world that often rewards detachment is not weakness. It is strength that has survived pressure. You still seek truth. You ask questions. You reflect. You analyze your own behavior. You desire clarity, not illusion. Many people choose comfort over truth because truth demands change. Yet you continue seeking understanding even when it challenges you. That pursuit is not accidental. It is driven by a light that values authenticity over convenience. You still refuse to become cold-hearted. Even when someone hurts you, you wrestle with the situation internally instead of immediately retaliating. You process. You try to understand motives. You set boundaries, but you do not celebrate cruelty. The world may normalize hardness as protection, but you instinctively know that becoming emotionally numb is not freedom, it is surrender. You still choose integrity, sometimes quietly, sometimes without recognition, sometimes at personal cost. Integrity is not glamorous. It often requires walking alone. It requires declining shortcuts. It requires saying no when others say yes. The fact that you repeatedly choose alignment with your values, even when no one is watching, is one of the clearest indicators that your light remains active. There were times when you mistook fatigue for failure. You thought that feeling tired meant you were losing your strength. But exhaustion does not erase essence. It simply signals that you have been carrying much. Even a strong flame flickers in heavy wind, yet flickering is not extinction. It is persistence under pressure. The inner light of a chosen one is resilient because it was not formed in comfort. It was forged in hardship, strengthened through resistance, and refined through reflection. That kind of light does not vanish easily. It adapts, it steadies, it waits. Even during seasons when you feel disconnected from your purpose, it remains quietly present. There is a difference between dimming and disappearing. You may have dimmed your expression at times to protect yourself. You may have spoken less, trusted less, revealed less. But beneath those protective layers, the core has not changed. Your values remain intact. Your awareness remains sharp. Your compassion remains accessible. Those qualities cannot be erased without your consent, and you have never fully consented to becoming darkness. That is the defining trait. You have faced enough pain to justify bitterness. You have experienced enough disappointment to justify cynicism. You have endured enough misunderstanding to justify isolation. Yet something within you rejects those permanent transformations. You may struggle, but you do not settle into coldness. You may withdraw temporarily, but you do not abandon your essence. A true chosen one doesn't shine because life is easy. They shine because they refuse to become the darkness. Read that slowly in your mind. It is not ease that makes you radiant. It is resistance. It is choice. It is the repeated decision to remain aligned when misalignment would be easier. Every time you choose patience over impulsive anger, your light strengthens. Every time you choose honesty over manipulation, your light strengthens. Every time you choose growth over resentment, your light strengthens. Shining is not about perfection. It is about perseverance. It is about returning to your center after being shaken. It is about acknowledging your mistakes without abandoning your standards. It is about feeling anger without becoming defined by it. The world does not need flawless people. It needs grounded ones. It needs individuals who have seen darkness and consciously decided not to embody it. Consider how many times you rebuilt yourself quietly. After a broken relationship, after a failed opportunity, after a harsh criticism. Each time you could have adopted a hardened identity. Instead, you recalibrated, you learned, you adjusted. That recalibration is the mark of inner light. It seeks alignment even after disruption. There is also power in the fact that your light operates internally before it manifests externally. It is not dependent on validation. It does not require constant applause. It exists whether others recognize it or not. That independence makes it stable. External approval can fluctuate, but internal alignment creates consistency. If you ever fear that your light is fading, look at your reactions. Look at what still moves you. Look at what still disturbs you. Look at what still inspires you. Indifference is the absence of light. Engagement is evidence of it. And you are still engaged, still reflecting, still striving to grow. The path of a chosen one is not about avoiding darkness. It is about navigating it consciously. It is about carrying awareness into environments that lack it. It is about remaining compassionate without becoming naive. It is about maintaining boundaries without losing empathy. These balances require strength, and strength requires light. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are evolving. Evolution feels unstable at times because old layers fall away. But beneath those layers, your core remains steady. The light within you is not fragile glass. It is tempered steel. It bends under pressure but does not shatter. There will be future challenges. There will be future moments of fatigue. But now you understand something you may not have understood before. The light you carry is not dependent on circumstances. It is anchored in identity. It survives because it is chosen repeatedly. Not chosen once in a dramatic moment, but chosen daily in small decisions. When you refuse to gossip, when you refuse to retaliate, when you refuse to compromise your values for convenience, when you choose growth instead of blame. Those decisions may seem ordinary, but collectively they form an extraordinary pattern. They prove that your light is not accidental. It is intentional. And as we approach the close of this message, hold this awareness firmly. The challenges you faced did not extinguish you. The resistance you encountered did not silence you. The fatigue you felt did not erase you. Your light remains because you continue choosing it. That choice is powerful. That choice is rare. And that choice is the reason your presence still carries depth, impact, and quiet strength. The inner light cannot be extinguished when it is rooted in conscious integrity. And you, despite everything, have refused to become the darkness. As we bring this message to a close, take a deep breath and let this settle into your spirit. After everything you've walked through, everything you've questioned, everything you've endured in silence, there is something you need to hear clearly and without distortion. You are not crazy. The way you perceive the world is not delusion. Your sensitivity is not instability. Your awareness is not imagination. You see patterns because you pay attention. You feel deeply because your heart is open. You sense shifts because your intuition is active. What others dismissed, you observed. What others ignored, you noticed. That is not madness. That is consciousness. You are not weak. Strength is not loudness. It is not aggression. It is not dominance. Real strength is restraint when you could retaliate. It is compassion when you could harden. It is endurance when you feel tired. You have survived seasons that could have reshaped you into someone unrecognizable. Yet here you are, still choosing growth. That is strength refined by fire. You are not lost. Even in confusion you were learning. Even in delay you were developing. Even in isolation you were discovering yourself. Feeling uncertain does not mean you are without direction. It often means you are shedding old versions of yourself that no longer fit. What felt like wandering was actually becoming. You are awakening. Awakening is not comfortable. It disrupts illusions. It challenges habits. It separates you from environments that once felt familiar. Awakening requires letting go of what no longer aligns. That process can feel lonely. It can feel disorienting, but it is not regression. It is elevation. You are becoming more aware, more intentional, more aligned with who you truly are. Your inner light was never a flaw. It was your assignment. The very qualities that made you feel different were the qualities shaping your purpose. Your depth was not excess. Your discernment was not overthinking. Your refusal to conform blindly was not rebellion without reason. It was preparation. You were never meant to blend into darkness. You were meant to recognize it without absorbing it. You were meant to walk through it without becoming it. No matter how dark the world becomes, your light will always know how to rise. Darkness may surround you at times. It may test you. It may attempt to exhaust you. But it cannot define you unless you surrender your essence. And you have not done that. Even when tired, you have not surrendered it. Even when discouraged, you have not abandoned it. That resilience is proof that your light is not fragile, it is anchored. Hold on to that truth as you move forward. Let it steady you when doubt whispers. Let it ground you when opposition surfaces. Let it remind you that your journey, however intense, is not random, it is purposeful. If you felt this message in your spirit, like this video, share it with another chosen one, and subscribe to this channel so you never miss the messages meant for you.